Now what we're going to do is we're going to set up a small little cut using our fire bricks. So we could take this. Now remember that anytime we start cutting, every piece of metal in here is hot. So we're going to put on our gloves for safety, but I'm going to move this here because it's a lot easier to get it moved while I don't have my gloves on. You will always have a pair of pliers available because the metal is going to be hot, and the metal is going to be hot, and we want to quench it when it's finished. So the idea here is we want to take this metal and we want to get the metal red hot. If it's red hot, it's ready to cut. So you want to take the angle of the torch in the direction of travel, whichever we're going from left to right or right to left, you want it in the direction of travel. You're going to heat this up till it's orange. And I'm going to press the handle and cut it. The speed of travel is going to be fairly slow, and you want to make sure that you got it up off the metal. If it's on the metal, it's going to have a problem and it's going to start popping. If it stops, like I stopped it here, you have to start it where you ended up at, but you got to get it back hot or orange color to start again. Remember, acetylene off first. Then we turn off the oxygen. Now we do have a holder here. We're going to make sure that we utilize this holder and not just leave the torch on the table. What we have at this point is parts of the metal that has slag on it. It cuts pretty clean, but you have slag on there, so you're going to take a chipping hammer and cut the slag off, or a grinder. So what I'm going to do is quench this real quick, and always remember your gloves while you're quenching because steam comes up from a hot piece of metal. So I'll be right back. What I want to hear in the class is a loud hot metal. This residual piece that we have here is going to be hot also. If you're cutting to the point where something will drop on the ground, always remember, do not try and pick it up. People try and pick it up. Don't pick it up. Always use your pliers for safety. So we can move this out of the way. Now, what we can do is when we are cutting, we could use a soapstone because this can be seen when you're cutting. And we want to mark a line across the piece of metal and follow that line because that'll give you a good cut. All right, so that's cutting. What we're going to do next is we're going to do what they call piercing. Okay? So piercing is you're going to start in the middle of the metal and cut a shape. So to make it easy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle. I'm going to go ahead and pierce that, cut through, draw that circle. What we use that for basically is spot welding. When you cut a circle or you cut a piece out of a regular metal, you weld in the circle. So to do that, I need to make sure there's nothing behind the metal. So the fire bricks are holding it up. Okay, remember what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our neutral flame and then get our cutting flame in it. So we're going to reach for our striker. We're going to go ahead and turn on the acetylene, or always remember your oxygen will make it pop if you left it on. We're going to go ahead, get our neutral flame. Remember going through the reducing flame. Press on the handle. Now what we're going to do for the piercing, we're going to start in the middle. Get it red hot. When it starts to bubble, you're going to press the oxygen . Always turn off your acetylene first. We're going to press the oxygen and follow our circle that we had drawn. So let's go ahead, quench this. Hot metal. We're going to leave that in the quench. In the quench tank just for a second. Always remember that if you're cutting, you always want a second person watching your equipment. If you don't have a second person watching, then your cutting operation isn't going to be safe to the point where I want it. So, second person watching the equipment, you're cutting. The big thing is making sure the sparks don't light the hose and we have a problem. So this is a good example of piercing. This is a good example of cutting. Now if you notice on the edge, if you could see that, it's still a little rough. So you would have to clean it up a little more with a grinder or my deburring tool, my deburring machine, the deburrer, or a file. You have to make sure that you clean this. You can't leave it in a rough state. Now, let me make sure I got everything. We're going to shut down. From shutting down, we're going to go ahead and bleed this to where it drains the tanks dry and we don't have a problem with it. So the first thing that we're going to do is bleed the acetylene. We'll turn that on. Then what you're going to do is turn off the acetylene cylinder and back this counterclockwise till all the gauges are 0. Then we're going to turn on the oxygen, turn this off, and do the same thing. As soon as it gets turned off. Now sometimes you might have to turn it clockwise to start loosening the valve or open the acetylene, the oxygen all the way. Once it's bled, what you can do is take the cutting torch, what you were using, and you want to roll these hoses up out of the way. And place your cutting torch inside the tray in the back. Okay, that concludes the Oxy-Fuel setup and cutting.